We know things like volume weighted average price is really important. It helps us understand what people are willing to pay for something. Volume profile allows you to visualize this exact thing for whatever ticker it is that you're looking at. Welcome back to another quick tips where you get tips quick. Let's talk about volume profile. I get asked about this one a lot, and it's super simple to set up. So the whole point of volume profile is this creates what we refer to as volume nodes. And these are kind of like these little peaks that jump out from the left-hand side. These little peaks represent the number of transactions that occur at the price that you're hovering on. So on thinkorswim, as I hover on this price level right here, it's 81 and change. This tells us that within this range here, a pretty decent number of people have traded at this level. And you can see that there's a big volume node here, a really big one down here. This dashed line is referred to as the point of control. That's where the most volume occurred in the time frame that you're looking at. Now, one of the cool things with thinkorswim is that the volume profile will automatically match the aggregation period is that you're looking at. So right now, this is telling you over the last 6 months, daily timeframes, where the volume has occurred, in what frequency, at what price level. If I move this out to a 1 year, you'll notice that things move around, they shift. And on a 1 year time frame, you'll notice that there's a big old volume node now here. And if I move us into a 3 month time frame, you'll notice that the point of control jumps from down in 24 up to 75. And that's because in the past 3 months, this is where the majority of volume has occurred at this price level. So the really cool thing and reason why I like volume profiles so much is when we're looking and analyzing markets, charting can sometimes feel like astrology. But realistically, if you break it down to its bare bones case, it's literally the visual representation of supply and demand. This tells us where people are willing to buy things, meaning where, what price, and in what quantity. So we can tell that as we get down here to this 75 handle, that at least over the last 3 months, there's obviously a lot of people that are willing to transact at this 75 handle. If I zoom us out now then to 6 months and we take a look at that same 75 handle, what do you notice? It's still a really dominant region on this chart. Typically, where you see these volume nodes, you will find congestion. You will find consolidation of some sort. And obviously, it just kind of makes sense, right? If a bunch of people are transacting on something at a price level, then that's going to mean that there's more volume at that price level. It's kind of, self-explanatory in that way. Then when you have these big transient style moves, you tend to have very light volume nodes or even gaps in between them. Those gaps become areas that price tends to move very quickly through. So to set this up the way that I have it set up, which is definitely different than the automatic setting that thinkorswim will give you, I'll walk you through that right now. We're going to go into studies up here, and then we're going to hit edit studies. And then we're going to go down to volume profile. If you don't have it on this side over here, you literally type it in over here, and then you can add it to this side. Notice how the volume profile is up in the price axis, not as volume or other lower graphs. And if we come in here and we hit the settings, I want to walk you through the way that I set it up. Again, you can set this up however you want. There's one really key thing that you have to pay attention to, and the rest is just preference. So you can set different heights. You don't really have to mess with that. The time per profile, what I do is I automatically set it to adapt to the chart. I don't use any multiplier. This is one of the settings that you have to be aware of, which is on expansion. If it is not on expansion and I click yes, you're going to notice it's going to dump it over here. And this is way less usable for me and the way that I trade. So I always move on expansion to no. And then you'll notice that it kind of overlays it with everything else. I find this much more useful. A couple other settings that you should be aware of. The value area percent, I don't really even plot the value area. That's simply where the most volume transacted at price range. I don't use it that much. The opacity is important because if you don't turn this to the correct level, it will look much deeper than it should, or it'll even block out the price. So for example, if I change this to 100% and we apply it, washes out the entire chart, right? So that's why I typically find 20% is pretty good. That's this. And sometimes you can go even lighter, that's fine. Now, one other thing that people miss all the time because it's not easy to find is down here under globals. If you click globals, you can change the color for the point of control versus the entire width of the profile, meaning these sections, as compared to the value area. So if you want the point of control to be something that's a little more visible, like maybe if I add this blue to it just for the example, you can kind of see that this line gets to be a little more distinct. I don't bother using it because it doesn't really matter to me. I can see where the point of control is when I look across the entire volume profile. Then all you do is you save it. You can add it to the chart whenever you want. You can move it in between other charts. But this exact step is all it takes to move it from on expansion over here. So if you have any questions, let me know. Be an outlier. See y'all later.